So we're in Thanksgiving week. Some of you are here. How about the Bernheim family? I mean, all of you. Yeah, it's good to have you here. The family now takes up in 2 rows. It's such a good thing. And it's Thanksgiving week, and I've got gratitude on my mind, and I'm sure you do too. And I always think, no slides today, it's been a busy weekend, but I always think about that German theologian and philosopher from the 13th and 14th centuries who said this about gratitude. It's in your bulletin, so you have it there. And by the way, you got plenty of room for taking notes, hint, hint, on the sermon today. But right there, at the first of the order of worship, we gather to praise God. There's this wisdom from Meister Eckhart, and it goes like this. If the only prayer you ever say in your entire lifetime is thank you, it will be enough. Wow. If the only prayer you and I ever say in our entire lifetime is thank you, that will be enough. And I think I've thought about that quote a long time because it struck me many years ago. Why is thank you enough? And I think it's because gratitude opens us up. It expands us so that we see God. We see this vast universe that we are getting to enjoy right now, and we see others. It expands us. It takes us out of this sinful place where we're turned inward on ourselves, thinking about me, myself, and I, and it opens us up to God, the universe, and to each other. And it's key to our faith because, see, faith, I can't get my hands around faith because faith is about letting go. It's about trusting God. So I can't get my hands around that, but I can get my hands around gratitude. Even a child can say thank you. And when we say it in a deep and meaningful way, and when we mean it, our gratitude helps us to trust God. The only prayer you and I ever pray in our entire lifetime is thank you, it will be enough. Our gospel today, chapter 17 of Luke, features 10 lepers. Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem, and he enters into this village. And these lepers, who were considered foul and unclean, they cry out, all 10 of them, Master, Jesus, have mercy upon us. And of course, Jesus does what Jesus does. And he has mercy upon all 10, and they're all healed. And he says, go to the priests and show yourselves. And all 10 do this. They do what Jesus tells them to do. But one leper, a Samaritan, who would have been the unlikeliest of all, turns around and says, thank you for being healed. Now, I love this story, like I love so many stories in the Bible. But I love it because I think the numbers, the percentages here are so spot on, because 90% of the time, I forget to be grateful. I don't know about you, but most people, I think, 90% of us, we're not like that 1% leper, the 1 out of 10 who, 10% I should say. But anyway, we're not talking about numbers right now, Mike. Okay. So, I didn't even hear that comment. Okay. So that one leper, we're not like that one leper who gets healed and falls prostrate. Now, that's a word we don't use anymore, and I'm not going to demonstrate, but it would be like falling flat on your face and on your stomach. This leper falls at the feet of Jesus. This is not superficial gratitude. This is my cup runneth over kind of thank you. But we tend to do just the opposite. Falling in that 90% of the time, or 90% of us. And we know that we're called to be grateful. This is God's will for us in Christ Jesus. But we do just the opposite. Here's what we do. We tend to grumble. We complain and complain and complain. I was thinking about all the things I'm complaining about these days. And I tend to complain about my coffee. It has to be a certain temperature. 202 degrees, or I'm not satisfied. Just a few weeks ago, I've been very distracted, and I was involved in a fender bender. And now, dang it, my left back bumper has some scratches and a little flaw. Wayne, I need you to help me fix it. thought about complaining today about my Converse tennis shoes. They have 2 bleach marks because when I'm cleaning my floors, I can't get that grout white enough. And then I'm thinking about how my passenger side doesn't work. You know, the seat warmer doesn't work on the passenger side. And I'm just frustrated by that. I'm thinking about my iPhone and how it's old enough now that the battery doesn't stay charged very long. And I'm not even going to mention that ball game last night. So I brought an illustration. You know me, I love props. Anybody like Twinkies? I know you do. Here's a fun story, and I may go a little long, but hang with me. I'm leaning into my community today. Complaining is a lot like junk food, like a Twinkie. Not very good for us, doesn't have much nutritional value, but we enjoy it, you know, and so we just take them in. I was on a road trip once. We're going to talk about a road trip in the wilderness in a moment. I was on a road trip with Kelly Caldwell. We were on our way for, peace be with her, for Dot's funeral. This is Kay Bernheim's mother. And we stopped along the way, and we were going to go in and for a rest break or fill up with gas. I can't remember, but Kelly said she wanted to go and get a snack. And Kelly, being the thin, cute person she is, I anticipated her coming back out of that gas station with a Nutri-Grain bar, you know. But instead, she had a honey bun. You remember that memory? Kelly Caldwell eats honey buns. Back to the sermon topic. Grumbling is a lot like junk food. Not very good for us. Probably has things in it that we shouldn't ever consume. But we grumble, we complain because somewhere deep within we enjoy it. So I want you to participate. I need some volunteers, and this is not a rhetorical question. I want you to tell me, I told you what I'm complaining about these days. I want you to tell me what you're complaining about, and if I like your answer, I'll throw you a Twinkie. So, what are you complaining about most these days? It's cold outside. It's hardly ever cold around here, and there you go complaining. And I'm a horrible thrower, so if I could get some volunteers to help me. What? SEC officials, I gotcha. What are you complaining about in this section?
Radio is screwed up in my truck. Just past 36,000 miles.
Your radio's not working. Edwin, we're just glad you're here. I'm a horrible thrower. What are you complaining about?
Your throwing ability.
My throw. I have performance anxiety. What are you complaining about over in this section? What are you complaining about, Frank? All is good. No Twinkie for you. Okay. What are you complaining about, Mark?
Help.
Help. Oh, goodness. Nice catch. Come on, I got one more, 2 more. Politics. That's a good one, Mike. I'm getting better. Any other complaints?
The New Orleans Saints.
Okay, the Saints. Give that to Brian. Kelly will eat it. And I have a whole nother box for anybody. I got to get on with the sermon, but for anybody else that wants to complain, we've got a new form of communion today. Church, we need to talk about how we love to complain in the church. Music's too loud. Not today, of course. The sermon's too long. Some have said it's too short. Won't be today, I can promise you. You know, the carpet's not the right color. The room temperature is not right. We have at least 3 typos on the screen or in the bulletin. Maybe I should go to another church because I'm sure there wouldn't be any complaints there. But you're stuck with me, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the honor that I would get up here and talk for a while and that you would listen. Thank you. And that we could do life together as we're trying to learn to trust God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We've got another biblical story. It's a classic one. It comes from the Old Testament, Exodus chapter 17. And it's a story about these people. They're people of faith. We call them the Israelites. And they're on this long journey in the wilderness. They're going from captivity to the promised land, from Egypt to Sinai. And along this long wandering time in the wilderness, they stop at different camps. And this time they're camped out at a place called Rephidim. And there's a problem. At this very campsite, and it's a big issue, by the way, it's a scary one. There's no clean water for the people to drink. Now, I don't know about you, but I've done a lot of youth work, I've done a lot of mission work, and I don't care what age you are, when someone gets dehydrated, it's scary. And they can be pretty grumpy, you know. This is real, what these Israelites are going through. And they've followed God. They've obeyed God. They've done what God has asked them to do. They have followed the pillar of cloud during the day, and they have followed the pillar of fire at night. These are people of faith, and there's no water to drink. And so they get kind of panicky. And I don't know what you do when you get panicky, but what they do here is they begin to grumble and complain, but they also blame. You know, have you ever been going through a crisis and by darn it, you got to blame somebody? Somebody's got to be responsible for this chaos that we're experiencing. So many times what we do is we blame ourselves, or we blame other people, and sometimes we blame God, because that's what we got to do when life's not going the way we want it to go, and when we're afraid and we're panicked. In this case, the people of faith blame who? They blame their leader, Moses. I mean, they're so mad at him. They're so angry that they want to stone him to death. I mean, who are you so mad at right now that you could stone them? Don't answer, because I don't have enough Twinkies. Here's what they say. Why did you bring us? Why? Why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and livestock with thirst? Why? Isn't that the question we like to ask when we're not in control? Yeah. There are books on it. Why? And here's what I've learned. You know, I've in the past, probably some of you would say, well, it's still true today. But in the past, I've been a big complainer. You know, I was just caught up in it. Came to this church and I just started complaining all the time. And so one year for Lent, I decided I was going to pay more attention to all my complaining and try to give it up. And so I had a friend that I let her gently hold me accountable. And every time I complained, she would just kind of point it out to me. And it was just like all the time. And so I started thinking about, why am I complaining so much? And at the root, when you get beneath the surface of our grumbling and complaining, it's about our feeling powerless. And I think about that when one of you, of course, y'all don't do this very much, but when you come to me with a complaint, what I say to myself is, what's really going on here with this person? It's not about the color of the carpet. There's something deeper and more important here. We complain because we are powerless and helpless and we're afraid. And I think about those people of faith in the desert of long ago. And by the way, you need to know this. When it comes to people of faith, I am a mama bear. I mean, don't mess with the people God has called me to serve. You know what I mean? I get that from my own mother. She's been a mama bear to me. Don't mess with my peeps. And don't mess with people who are trying to trust God with their lives. So don't be too hard on these Israelites. And here's what it's helpful to understand about complaining from a psychological point of view, is it comes from our primitive brain. Psychologists will tell you that the brain is wired for survival. You know, we lean this way. This is why human beings are still here with cockroaches. You know, I mean, we lean toward, the human brain leans toward survival. And so it tends to pay more attention to negative things than positive. And here's the ratio, folks. No wonder we're all complaining all the time. It's 5 to 1. The brain perceives negatives at an approximated ratio of 5 to 1. But we're not people of the world, are we? We are people of God. And our calling is to trust God. This is how gratitude is deeply connected to our faith, learning to trust God with our lives. The Apostle Paul, in one of his letters, says these familiar words. I read them every Thanksgiving. Rejoice always, pray continuously, and give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for us in Christ Jesus. God put us on this planet, the church teaches us. The chief end of humankind is to give thanks, to glorify God, and enjoy God forever and ever. As a little girl, I used to walk around, why am I here? It took going to seminary to figure that out. We're here to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Because all of life is sheer gift and flows from God. But here's what happens to us. We're so affluent. We're so entitled. I'm with you here. Nobody more entitled than I am standing up here on this platform. But we're so affluent. So David Stendhal Rost, who talks a lot about gratitude, says, he uses this illustration. He says, gratitude should be like a fountain. When it gets to the rim, it just gently overflows, okay? But we're more like a bowl. We're so affluent that when we're given blessings, what we do is we go buy a bigger bowl. And so the bowl never runs over because our container just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I said already that gratitude is connected to our faith. I can't wait as much as I try. I can't get my hands around how to trust and surrender. But I can get my hands around saying thank you. And not in a superficial, scratch the surface kind of way. So here's the action step. Every single week when I'm preaching, I try to put an action step in the bulletin so that what I say on Sunday will matter on Monday. What I want us to do is cultivate. We're here to learn how to trust God. So let's cultivate hearts filled with sincere gratitude. And so I'm going to change the ratio on us. And it's going to be countercultural. It's not going to be habitual. We're going to have to really train ourselves. And for every one complaint, let's give 5 gratitudes. Now, I know, Susan, that may not even be a word used properly, but let's do that. For every one complaint, let's say 5 thank yous. Can you do that, church? Not just Thanksgiving week, but all year long. I want to go back to Israel, and then I'll wrap it up. So they're in the wilderness. And what's so remarkable to me is how important leadership is. That's what discipleship is. It's leadership. We're equipping ourselves through the gospel to go out and lead, not in the ways of the world, but in the way of Jesus. And the leader in this case was Moses. And while everybody's griping and complaining and seemingly spiraling out of control, you know what Moses does as he leads? He prays. He listens to God's voice amidst the chaos. And God tells him to do a wacky thing. It's ridiculous. Go with some elders and take this shepherd's staff, just a humble, ordinary object, and go strike a rock. And Moses does it. He does what God tells him to do. And when he strikes that rock, what happens? Water. It flows abundantly, and the people were able to drink. And Paul writes about this later on in one of his letters. He's talking to a church community like you and me, and he says, I do not want you to be unaware. Do not be unaware, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud and all passed through the sea, And all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and all ate the same spiritual food, manna from heaven, and all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock was Christ. Friends, our rock, I say it every Sunday, our rock and our salvation is Jesus Christ, who gives and gives and gives abundantly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So be it, and so it is. Amen.